Welcome to this brief video on the formula Tonify the Middle and Augment the Qi Decoction, or Tang in Chinese. This famous formula is used for treating qi deficiency, especially as concerns the spleen and stomach. This is a strong, invigorating formula, and as such has been used for a broad range of problems that include fatigue and digestive issues. As it is said to lift yang qi, it has been used to treat organ prolapse. The formula originally appeared in 1249 CE in Li Dongyuan's book, A Discussion of the Spleen and Stomach. Li Dongyuan was the founder of the spleen and stomach school. An anecdote says that Li Dongyuan was in the Jin dynasty capital, Kaifang, when it was attacked by Genghis Khan's son Ogedei in 1232. After the emperor Aizong fled, the city surrendered. The people endured plague and famine, and about 1 million people died. When food became available again, people were unable to recover because of their state of weakness. It is said that Li Dongyuan devised this formula to successfully help people to get better. This formula falls into the category of formulas that tonify qi. The formula name explains its function and is a direct translation from the Chinese. The term middle refers to the spleen and stomach as the body's central organs. We can find it useful to compare it to two other relatively complex formulas that I have covered in other videos, Xiao Tang and Xuefu Tang. Although these three formulas share many herbs in common, their functions are different. Xiao Tang is a harmonizing formula. Xuefu Tang is an invigorating formula, whereas Tang is a supplementing or tonifying formula. Xuefu Tang acts both on the blood and on qi, with more emphasis on invigorating and moving the blood. Xiao Tang is focused on balancing the body's qi, while Tang is focused on supplementing and raising qi within the body. If we look at the herbs in the formula, we can see that they're almost all herbs that act on qi, with the exception of Tang, which nourishes and invigorates blood. In fact, the formula can be constructed from two other formulas which act on qi, Tang and Tang, with additions and subtractions. Fuling is removed from Tang, and Chaihu, and Shenma are added. Chaihu and Shenma specifically act to raise qi, as does Huang qi. This slide shows the normal dosage of the herbs for administration of the formula, as a pill and as a decoction. The doses of astragalus and licorice root outweigh those of the other herbs. The formula consists of 8 herbs: Huang qi or astragalus root, Renshen or Ginseng Root, Baizhu or white Attractyloides rhizome, Zhigancao or honey-prepared licorice root, Dangui or Chinese angelica root, Chenpi or aged tangerine peel, Chaihu or Bupleurum root, and Shenma, which is Simicifuga rhizome. Huang qi is astragalus root. It has a dry texture, no smell, and feels very light. Its properties are that it is sweet and slightly warm. As a qi-enhancing herb, it is associated with the lungs and the spleen, and from the 5 transformations diagram, we can note that the sweet property is associated with the spleen. Huang qi tonifies spleen and lung qi, and in general it raises yang qi. It stops sweat by securing the exterior. It facilitates urination by disinhibiting water, disperses swelling, promotes the secretion of fluids, and nourishes the blood. Renshen is Ginseng Root, probably the most well-known and perhaps most misunderstood Chinese herb. It is sweet, slightly bitter, and slightly warm, and it is associated with the lungs and the spleen. The 5 transformation theory links its sweet nature with the spleen. It is said to powerfully tonify yuan, or primordial qi, restoring a pulse which may be on the verge of expiring. It supplements the spleen and boosts the lungs, and promotes fluids and nourishes the blood. It calms the spirit and sharpens the mind. Although Renshen is described only as being slightly warm, it encourages internal fire. I personally find that it has an agitative effect. You should avoid taking coffee and other stimulants when you use renshen, and long-term use can lead to hypertension. It has also been observed to contribute to the retention of a pathogen, so a priority should be to remove a pathogen before renshen is prescribed. Baizhu is white Attractyloides rhizome. It is frequently found in Zhang Zhongqing's Shanghanlun formulas. It is bitter, sweet and warm, and associated with the spleen and stomach. It dries dampness and disinhibits water, but prevents sweating. An additional characteristic is that it calms the fetus. As a drying herb, it should be avoided when there is heat from yin deficiency, or if fluids are exhausted. Zhegancao is honey-prepared licorice root. Gancao is a herb that is used both in its raw state and prepared in honey. The properties shown here are specific to honey-prepared licorice root. It is sweet and warm and associated with the heart, lungs, spleen and stomach channels. It tonifies the spleen and boosts qi, clears heat, resolves toxins, relaxes tension, relieves pain, and harmonizes the characteristics of herbs used in a formula. Although it's most commonly used as a harmonizing herb in formulas, in this case its qi activity is very important. It should be used with care when there is distension or overabundant dampness. Dangui is Chinese angelica root, and has been a popular herb for women even outside China. It has an oily texture and tends to be cut into longer, thin strips. Its properties are sweet, acrid, and warm. It is associated with the heart, liver, and spleen channels. Again, from the 5 transformation diagram, the sweet property is associated with the spleen channel. The characteristics of dangui are that it tonifies and invigorates the blood, with more emphasis on tonification. It also regulates menstruation and alleviates or stops pain. You should be careful about using dangui if the patient suffers from diarrhea and abdominal fullness. The patient may show a tongue with a thick coating, which would imply dampness. Chenpi, or aged tangerine peel, is one of a number of citrus herbs used in TCM. Various parts of the orange and tangerine play an important role as qi herbs, as can be seen in this slide. Qi herbs assist in maintaining appropriate qi dynamic, eliminating qi stagnation or rebellious qi. Chenpi is also known as Jupi. It is acrid, bitter, aromatic and warm. It is associated with the lungs, spleen and stomach. Its properties are that it rectifies qi, fortifies the spleen, dries dampness and reduces phlegm. It's not suitable for patients suffering from yin deficiency. Chaihu is Bupleurum root. It is bitter, acrid and cool. It is associated with the gallbladder, liver, pericardium and sanjiao or triple burner channels. Chaihu treats alternating chills and fever, harmonizes the exterior and the interior, upbears yang and raises what is sagging. It raises the clear qi of the stomach and gallbladder. It also courses the liver and resolves depression. In using Chaihu, you should be aware that appropriate dosage is important for effective treatment. A lower dosage is associated with directing qi flow. This is a herb associated with raising and dispersing. It should be used with care in cases of liver yang hyperactivity and severe yin injury. As always, you should be mindful of your patient using Western drugs and other supplements that could combine in a damaging way. Shenma is Simicifuga dahorica, Foetida or Heracleifolia. Although Bensky translates this as black cohosh or bugbane rhizome, Western herbalists emphatically state that these names refer to Simicifuga racemosa. I will do a separate video on this and related issues. Shenma translates as ascending hemp. It is sweet, acrid and slightly cold in nature. It is associated with the large intestine, lungs, spleen and stomach. Shenma releases the exterior, alleviates fever, resolves toxicity, upbears yang, and raises what is sinking. Because of these properties, it should not be used when there is floating yang with yin deficiency. Buzhong Iqi Tang tonifies the middle jiao, benefits qi, ascends yang qi, and lifts prolapsed organs. It treats the syndrome of spleen qi deficiency and fall. If we look at the signs and symptoms for this syndrome, we can immediately note typical indications of qi deficiency. That's to say, fatigue, shortness of breath, a quiet voice with little desire to speak, and a pale complexion. A pale tongue, usually with a thin white coating, and a deficient rootless pulse, especially in the right guan position, will indicate spleen and stomach qi deficiency. If we look at the properties of the herbs in this formula, we can see that they're almost all qi herbs, mostly sweet, acrid and warm for the tonification of the spleen and the lungs. Both of these organs are fundamental in developing postnatal qi. Of particular note is the paired herb combination of huang qi and dangshen. Because of the high cost of renshen, Chinese doctors usually prescribe dangshen in its place. At a higher dosage, dangshen is supposed to provide the same actions as renshen, and in this particular formula it may even be more suitable. Dangshen supplements the spleen and the stomach, promotes the production of blood and fluids, and it mainly acts on the middle jiao and more particularly on yin. Huang qi raises and supplements the yang. It secures and supplements the exterior and stops perspiration. Together, the two herbs supplement the middle jiao, which is the home of spleen and stomach qi, and they strengthen the exterior defensive or wei qi. Returning to the signs and symptoms, there may be loose stools, diarrhea, or dysentery. This is caused by clear yang not rising. When the spleen and stomach are deficient, the gu qi from nourishment does not ascend. The clear yang depends on this for upward movement. In more severe cases, there may be prolapse of the stomach, uterus, or rectum. This can be ascribed to deficient yang not supporting the organs. Chaihu and Shenma are a paired herb combination that is associated with raising qi. Both are herbs that resolve the exterior and clear heat. Chaihu raises yang qi moderately, while Shenma upbears qi more strongly. Chaihu acts on the Xiao-yang channel, while Shenma acts on the Yang-ming channel. Chaihu frees qi on the left side of the body, whereas Shenma acts on the right side. Together they upbear liver, stomach and spleen qi. Huang qi both tonifies and raises qi, although it is not as effective as these paired herbs in raising qi. Nevertheless, because of this double action, huang qi is the sovereign or jun herb in this formula, and is prescribed in much higher dosage than the other herbs. It's important to prescribe Chaihu and Shenma in small dosage to ensure their qi activity. This formula should not be used if there is yin deficiency or interior heat. Also, tonifying herbs such as renshen can strengthen external pathogens, so care should be taken if there is an associated disease. I leave you with a summary of the properties for this formula, and hope you will join me in future videos in this series.